All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I am all over the place today. I'm going to lead here in just a second with an update on RFK Jr.'s campaign. And spoiler alert, it's imploding. So we'll dive into that. We'll also talk about this first of its kind, unprecedented attempt from Biden to drag his ass across the finish line by bringing in Bill Clinton and Barack Obama effectively to try to save him. So we'll dive into that. Then I got some more wacky on-the-ground interviews with Trump supporters, which will blow your mind. Missouri is trying to bring back duels. Like politicians literally want to fight each other to the death in front of the world. Okay. And then later on, we'll get to Charlie Kirk manages to out Charlie Kirk himself and said something that was so stunningly racist that the media actually gave a shit what Charlie Kirk said. It's kind of Mission Impossible for the media to care about Charlie Kirk, but he said something so extreme that even they were like, God damn, son, what are you doing? And I'm actually not referring to, I don't know if you guys remember this, the other day, there was a report that he wanted to launch an anti-Martin Luther King campaign on Martin Luther King Day. Well, this topped that, believe it or not. All right, so we'll talk about all that and more. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps out massively in the algorithm and costs you nothing. Without further ado, let's dive into it. So we just got word that Trump's team allegedly reached out to RFK Jr. early on in RFK's campaign about potentially being his VP. Wow. Trump and RFK Jr. So let me read you some of the reporting here from New York Post. People close to former President Trump made preliminary overtures to Robert F. Kennedy about the possibility of serving as his running mate, the Post has learned. Trump operatives expressed an interest in Kennedy early on, but it was all premature, said one person familiar with the matter, adding that it was right out of the box when Bobby announced in April 2023 he was running for president. Quote, anything's possible. I wouldn't write it off by any means, the insider continued. Kennedy, 70 years old, who was initially running as a Democrat but is now an independent, wasn't interested and has continued to shoot down speculation that he would ever take a job as Trump's VP. I've heard the concept. It's not surprising. Timothy Mellon, who has donated at least $5 million to Kennedy's super PAC, told the Post. By the way, way to flush $5 million down the drain. A second large donor to both Trump and Kennedy said the movement to draft Kennedy, the son of former Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, who was assassinated while campaigning for president in Los Angeles, is still alive in Trump circles. So there's some people in Trump's inner circle that are like, he's the guy we want. You should pick him for VP. It's very much behind the scenes at this stage. As we progress, you might see it bubble up a little bit more, the donor said. Bobby can bring new people to the polls. RFK is a notable anti-vaxxer, which would make him strange bedfellows with Trump, who famously funded the development of the coronavirus vaccine during the pandemic. Yet Steve Bannon, a former chief White House strategist for Trump, who remains close to the former president, has also pushed the idea and said in August that a Trump-Kennedy ticket would produce a, quote, massive landslide. As Trump's resounding victories in Iowa and New Hampshire make him all but the party's de facto 2024 presidential nominee, there has been buzzing speculation about who he might choose as VP. Some high-profile names which have been floated include New York Representative Elise Stefanik, Tim Scott, and J.D. Vance. Reps for Trump and Kennedy did not respond to requests for comment for the Post. So let's be clear about what this article is saying and what it's not saying. It's saying that early on, they were putting out some feelers, like, hey, would he be interested in serving as VP? We might be interested in having him, not Trump necessarily, but the people who are around Trump and get to prod Trump in one direction or another. It doesn't say that they flat out asked. It doesn't say that it happened recently. And honestly, to be fair to RFK, who I'm not a fan of, one thing he has made clear time and time again when he has been asked this question is, no, I really have no interest in being Trump's nominee. Trump's VP. I have no interest in that whatsoever. So the fact that they're even considering it, though, is interesting. To me, it sounds more like wish casting among people who are way too online and still part of the MAGA movement. I think they like the fact that every time RFK opens his mouth, he's beaten up on Democrats. I think they enjoy that. And I think they enjoy the fact that he's an anti-vaxxer. And I think Trump's inner circle might look at RFK and think, hey, he fixes what they view as a perceived weakness of Trump. They think Trump being pro-vaccine is a weakness. And so to solidify the base, they want to bring in somebody who has hardcore anti-vax credentials. Now, by the way, I don't even think they're right that that's a weakness of Trump. If you look at the polls more broadly throughout the country, yeah, vaccines are still very popular. Like, people think the vaccine was a net benefit, a net positive for society in the midst of the COVID pandemic. So I think Trump's instincts on that are much more on point than all the weirdos and freaks who he has around him. But that's definitely what they're thinking. They're definitely thinking more along the lines of, hey, this guy helps Trump with a particular weakness and he'll rally the base. But I told you guys, I don't even know why we're having this conversation, because at the end of the day, there's only, I think, 2 possibilities for VP for Trump, maybe 3, if we're being kind. So the one I think is going to be is Kristi Noem. And the reason I think that is because Trump definitely wants to fuck her. She has like no personality whatsoever, and she is fiercely loyal. Like each one of those things are massive bonuses. Trump doesn't want somebody who can out charisma him. He wants somebody who's just brainless and loyal, and it helps that she's attractive, right? So I think it's going to be Kristi Noem. There's an outside chance of Stefanik. I think she's in the conversation. And then the other one, which I just added to the list recently, is because of Trump's legal troubles and the fact that his ass might be in prison, which is Don Jr. Because if Trump gets taken off the field, then he would want somebody to be his VP who then becomes the head of the ticket, who he knows for sure would bail his ass out and pardon him. And that would be Don Jr. That's probably the one who we can rely on the most. Those are the only people I think there are really being considered. It's interesting, though, that apparently they were toying with the idea of RFK. But now let me give you some more RFK updates, because this gets weirder and weirder. So we have this. RFK signals he's open to running as a libertarian in 2024. Now, hold on. You're probably all thinking, wait, he started running as a Democrat. True. Then he was like, I don't think the Democrats are treating me fairly, which is accurate. I think anybody who ran against Biden didn't get treated fairly. But he goes, okay, now I'm going to run as an independent. And everybody went, okay, fair enough. And now you want to run as a libertarian? You want to switch again? Look, maybe you can make an argument for switching once. Maybe. Even that, I think, is a little goofy and like you didn't really prepare properly, right? But now you want to do it again? And you want to run as a libertarian? Okay, now, why is he doing it? The answer is very simple, guys. And it goes back to something I say on this show all the time. People have no idea how difficult it is to run for president as an independent. So my understanding, last time I checked, which was about a month ago, RFK was on literally one ballot for the general election. It was in Utah. Okay? I don't think he's gone on any other ballots in any other state, even though he's trying. And I happen to know that it's either 6 or 7 different states where he literally can't get on the ballot unless he creates his own new party and then runs under that banner. So they've effectively made it impossible to run as an independent. You need X number of signatures in this state, and you need X amount of money in that state, and it's hard enough to run as a Democrat or a Republican, but at least the pathway is there as a Democrat or a Republican. As an independent, he's realizing right now, oh my God, I'm hitting every roadblock known to man. They functionally made this impossible. And you want to know why they did? Because when I was going to say Bob Dole, when Ross Perot ran in the 1990s, he got like 19% of the vote and massively impacted the election between the Democrat and the Republican. And so the Democrats and the Republicans looked at each other and said, we can't let this happen ever again. We need to shield out these independent candidates. We need to basically push them off the field. And so they did. And they rigged the debate and made it so that the independent candidates can't get on the debate stage like Ross Perot was. They made it so that it's very difficult in various states. And so now he's probably been trying desperately to get on all these ballots, and he literally just can't do it. So now this is him tapping out and saying, I'll run as a libertarian. Why? Because libertarians have a track record of getting on anywhere between 45 state ballots and 50 state ballots, right? And he wants to use the infrastructure of the libertarians to try to make a run at it. So from an organizational perspective, and a process perspective, just like getting on the ballot, this is probably what he views as his only out. But then, of course, the question is, well, what the hell are the libertarians going to think? Because does he have some libertarian tendencies, some libertarian positions? Sure. But is he libertarian enough for the Libertarian Party? Not remotely. Not remotely. So, I don't know. He's sort of in a pickle. So, things are not going well for RFK at this point. They are not going well. And he was, in some polls early on, he was at like 20% or so, which is kind of amazing, but I think that's a massive overestimate as to the percentage of the vote he'll end up getting eventually. But I got one more for you, because you want to talk about how this dude is cooked. Look at this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. Look at this. Independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. backed Texas in its ongoing battle with the federal government over border authority. Quote, Biden's failure to secure the border leaves states no choice but to take matters into their own hands. So in other words, RFK Jr. is saying, Constitution, schmonstitution. I don't care about that at all. I don't care about the supremacy clause at all. Yes, let's have rogue conservative states send their respective National Guard to the border to get in a standoff with federal border patrol, to illegally reject the conclusion of the Supreme Court, which said, hey man, the supremacy clause is what it is. Federal border patrol is in control. Greg Abbott and all the conservative Republican governors are like, no, we disagree. We'd rather put out their cessationist rhetoric and secessionist? That's probably the better way to say it. Secessionist rhetoric. And we want to snub the federal government, snub the Supreme Court, pretend like we have the ultimate authority, put more razor wire at the border, all putting our middle finger up to federal border patrol. And guess what? This is all illegal. This is all unconstitutional. And this is all at the same time, mind you, that Biden is literally attempting to pass a piece of legislation, bipartisan border deal, which gives him the authority to completely and totally shut down the border like that right now on day one. So even the idea that like, Biden's left them no choice but to do this, that is completely and utterly ahistorical and not at all factual. Like he's just wrong on that. But I love, so he's throwing in his lot with the extreme right wing. All right. But look, I got to be honest with you guys. Part of me kind of likes that he's saying this. Why? Because then it's clear, again, he's probably going to take more votes from Trump than he is from Biden. Right? To sign on with what these freaks and losers are doing, that's just, you're pulling from the right-wing pool of voters at that point. Even though Biden is taking a very right-wing position on the border. To agree with Texas in this feud is unconscionable. It's unconscionable. It's people, honestly, who don't even understand that effectively what they're advocating for is civil war. Like they want the Texas National Guard to get into a shootout with federal border patrol because they're total psychos. So anyway, RFK Jr. struggling, not doing too well. There's a clear example of it here. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.